Hello everyone. In the Mannequin of the Month video for December, we had a look at a recreation which included the British CB suit. Now this is the progenitor of the NBC suit, and I said in that video we'd be taking a look at the first proper NBC suit later in the month, and that's what we're going to have a look at here. So what we have on the mannequin is the smock from the NBC suit, the number 1 Mark II. And we're going to have a look at the smock and the trousers. Before we get into talking about this in more detail on the mannequin, we'll first have a look at how these arrive packaged in their vacuum sealed packaging. Have a quick look at that now and then get back to looking at these on the mannequin. So here we have the smock and the trousers in both the vacuum and outer packaging. So we have an example here of the NBC suit, the smock protective NBC number 1 Mark II. You have the NATO stock number at the top there, interestingly with the RAF 23B prefix. These were also RAF issues, so you have that prefix there, the 23B, for protective clothing. You can see the August 1970 date there, which is the cloth date, the date of the actual manufacture of the cloth, and then August 1971, the date of manufacture of the suit itself. You have the label there, the primary standard pack. The outside packaging is a heat sealed bag, and inside is another plastic bag into which the NBC suit has been vacuum packed. You have the trousers here as well. In contrast to the suit we're going to look at on the mannequin, these are both size medium. These manufactured by Remploy, Dundee, I think they both are. Yes, they're both made by Remploy. And you can see the same dates on this one here, the same dates on the trousers. And again, you have that RAF prefix there. So having had a look at these items in the packaging, we'll have a look at the smock and the trousers on the mannequin now. We have here the smock, first of all, and looking back at the Mannequin of the Month video, if you compare to this, you'll see that the CB suit is very similar, or the NBC suit, the initial pattern of NBC suit, the number 1 Mark II, is very similar to the CB suit in terms of the materials used and so forth. The big change is the fact that the hood is now an integral part of the smock. It's permanently attached, as you can see here. So we still have the grey and the green cloth, obviously the green cloth over particular wear points on the outside. You do actually have a pen pocket on the arm formed from that cloth here as well. We'll see that as we move this round. You can see the hood is lined in this green cloth and the outer edge is strengthened with that as well. We do have a label here which we'll have a closer look at in just a minute. And you have a draw cord in the hood as well. And this is simply adjusted, it's tied off at the end there as you can see, and is adjusted with this piece of rubber with 2 holes in it. And that literally slides up and down on there and forms something of a stop. Obviously these are designed as disposable garments. If they were actually used, obviously if they're actually used in anger, they would be disposable garments. The idea is they keep contamination off you, and once you've used them for a period of time, they will be replaced and then disposed of. The reality, of course, in training is that they were used and used and used. But the reason for this sort of cheap manufacturing using very simple parts of the design like this is because these are designed to be disposable garments. Looking at the front here, you can see we have adjustment tabs on each side, there and there. So you have a piece of hooked Velcro or touch and close here with a little herringbone tape tab on it, and that obviously makes it easier to manipulate when wearing the gloves, which are part of the NBC ensemble, and you can just Velcro that round there to adjust the front in. So it's an over the head design. It doesn't open down the front, of course. Any opening would make this more expensive to manufacture and also reduces the chemical protective nature of the garment as well. So that's the front of the smock. We'll start moving this around now and have a look at some of the other details. Looking at the right hand side of the mannequin here, we'll first of all have a look at the hood, and you can see here when these are folded and initially worn, you end up with a pointed top, which led to the nickname Noddy suits. That was mentioned in the Mannequin of the Month video as well. When not worn with a helmet, it does give that impression. So you have that there. You can see the detail, the back of the hood there, and the side of the hood, it's just this grey cloth with the green around the opening at the front to give some reinforcement. You can see how the green cloth comes over the shoulders here, and then you have basically the back of the arm there, where if you went prone with a rifle, for example, this would be a wear point. So you have the green cloth stitched on there as well. At the cuff, we have a touch and close adjustment. Obviously these were worn with gloves, so you'd need to tighten the cuff in order to wear the gloves effectively. So you have a piece of the hooked touch and close there, little, again, the cloth tape on there, and the soft side of the touch and close there. Again, the tape's making these a lot easier to manipulate when wearing gloves. Looking at the back of the smock here, in contrast with the CB suit, the whole of the back of the smock is covered in this green cloth. Obviously this is a major point of wear. The web equipment is worn over the suit, so important to have that protection against wear. On the back here, just lift the hood up there, you can see the seam for that running around here. There's also a seam running up the back there. You can see how the back of the hood is drawn in here. When we turn this inside out, you'll see there's a piece of elastic across the back there to draw the hood in, sort of just around the back of the head or the base, the top of the neck at the back there when you're wearing this. And finally, before we turn this inside out, the last thing to look at is the left-hand side of the mannequin here, and as already mentioned, there is a pen pocket on this arm. The details are otherwise the same as what we looked at on the other side, but there is a pen pocket on the left arm. If I open this up here, you can see that's just been formed from a piece of the green cloth stitched on with little channels made in it for individual pens, and then possibly for a dosimeter on the end here. This one's a bit wider. Obviously you don't have access to your internal pockets when you're wearing this, so being able to carry pens, pencils, Chinograph pencils for map work and so forth in the pocket on the arm here, useful. So that's been added on to the design here. So we now have the smock turned inside out, and you can see one feature of these is the fact they're very stiff when they're first unpacked. With wear they soften, but the problem with that is it actually breaks up the charcoal lining, which is what this black material is, and that then coats everything in charcoal dust, which is not ideal, but you know, it's the compromises that have to be made with protective clothing, I guess. So the entirety of the suit is charcoal lined. The reason that the hood doesn't appear to be is it has a layer of the green cloth on the inside, make it a little bit more comfortable to wear. You can see at the cuffs here where the green reinforcement runs down the arms, it's been doubled over just over the cuff there, but otherwise the cloth is entirely charcoal lined here, and the idea is that the air that passes through the suit one way and the other, in fact, is filtered by this activated charcoal. So you're essentially wearing a filter, and it does have some merit to this. It does mean the suit is slightly more breathable than, say, the impermeable rubber NBC suits, the rubberized protective suits that were used by Soviet bloc, the Warsaw Pact forces. So it has its advantages in that regard. It's certainly better than what was being issued to them. Still very hot and uncomfortable to wear, though, having done so as part of a hobby, which I'm sure many people would think is completely mad on a relatively hot day. They are uncomfortable to wear, and of course I was very lucky as I could take it off whenever I wanted. In training, that's not the case, of course. So, as I say, it is better than the Soviet equivalents or the Eastern Bloc equivalents, but still not a comfortable piece of clothing to wear in hot weather. So it's fully charcoal lined, as you can see here. Obviously, as mentioned, the hood does have this inner lining material. We'll start moving this around now. There's not a huge amount to see on each side, so we'll have a look at the back and obviously have a look at the label and the inside of the hood. So looking at the back of this, you can see details of the construction here, the seams of the arms there. You can see where the green cloth comes down the back. Again, it's been doubled over the bottom hem here. And then if I raise up the hood here, you can see that piece of elastic I mentioned, which is stitched across the back here just to draw the back of the hood in. And then we have the label up in the top here, and we'll get a close-up look at this now. So as mentioned before, this is a size large, and this is Suit Protective NBC No. 1 Mark II, and we have the smock with hood attached. This is to differentiate it from the CB suit, which of course had the separate protector head and neck or hood, which was worn with it and came in its own little individual packet. You have the NATO stock number underneath that, and then size large, and then XBR the manufacturer, 1971 the date of manufacture, and then the contract number underneath that. We'll have a look at the trousers from this suit now, and these are again very simple. They have touch and close fastenings and so forth. You have the green reinforcement again down over the knees and so forth there and around the seat. These are very similar to the CB suit trousers. In fact, if you didn't look at them side by side, you wouldn't be able to recognise the difference necessarily. But some of the strengthening material and stuff is stitched on a slightly different pattern, and that's about it really. So very, very similar to the trousers from the CB suit. We move these around and open them up here. You can see at the front, these are quite a large size. I think they actually are size large. If I just check the label here, they are size large, yes. So you have the waist adjustment in the front here, where this piece just simply folds over, and you have a piece of touch and close there to fasten that across. You have the loops here at the front, again with this twill tape, which allows you to hook the braces over the shoulder, loop the braces over the shoulders and tie them off at the front here. There is a pocket here, as you can see. There's one on the other side as well, so you do have two hip pockets produced by simply stitching around and leaving the top open on the reinforcing cloth here, as you can see. And then if we move this around to look at the back, you can see where this green cloth comes around over the seat there, obviously a point of wear, so you have that reinforcement there of having that extra piece of cloth on the outside. If we lift these up here, you can see the adjustment on the legs here. You have two pieces of touch and close which allow you to cinch the legs in, which obviously makes them a bit easier to wear with the boots. You can cinch these in around the top of the boots when you're wearing these, and that helps to produce something of a seal to keep obviously chemical and biological agents out and nuclear contamination. So two pieces of touch and close there on each side, as you can see, to tighten the lower leg in around the calf there. If we look at the back here, if I just lift these up, you can see the set of built-in braces or suspenders. They're simply stitched to cross in the lower back there. You can see simply stitched together. These then loop over the shoulders and tie off to these loops at the front here. So you literally just loop the end of the tape through there and tie it off, which means you have quite a bit of variation regarding the height, how high these would be worn and so forth, and very, very simple way of doing things, and it's effective as well. We'll turn these inside out now and have a quick look at the inside details. So with these turned inside out, you can see the charcoal lining. You have the cloth doubled over at the waist here for about 1.5 inches, but all the way down to the hem here they are charcoal lined. You just have a raw edge at the bottom there. You see the internal detail of the seams where they've been stitched together in the inseam there, and you can see, and then you can see the inside face where the tape's been stitched on. A little bit of reinforcement here with an extra little piece of cloth stitched in where you have those pockets on the outside. And then we turn these round, you can see further charcoal lining. You can see the stitching where that reinforcing cloth is stitched on the outside, and then you have the label up here, and you can see how the braces stitch in at the back there. So quite a good length stitched in there to make sure they're strong enough for the job. Label in the waistband here, and we'll have a quick look at that in more detail now. Looking at the label here, you can see the designation of this: Suit Protective NBC No. 1 Mark II. These are the trousers, of course, with the NATO stock number underneath that, and then the size, which is large in this instance, XBR, the manufacturer, and the date of 1971, and then you have the contract number underneath that. So I hope you found it interesting looking at this. I certainly find NBC kit quite interesting. It's something which is quite synonymous with the Cold War for obvious reasons, and is still issued today, obviously very important in the Gulf War. And the charcoal suit, this NBC suit, was quite an innovative design and was quite popular with other NATO countries as well. The Netherlands purchased these. You see Netherlands contract examples for the No. 1 Mark II from the same sort of introduction period, the early 1970s, the same sort of time they were introduced into British Army use as well. And of course later on you'd see the US using charcoal lined suits, particularly in the Gulf. The US Marine Corps made extensive use of British NBC suits out in the Gulf in 1990-91. So an influential design from that point of view. I do hope you found it interesting looking at this. If you have and you'd like to see more of this sort of thing, please do consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't already. And whether you're newly subscribing or you've previously subscribed, please do make sure you hit the little bell, the notification button down below. That will of course alert you when I upload future videos. If you really like my uploads and you would like to support the channel, you can. Both Patreon and PayPal are linked down below. And as ever, a huge thank you to everybody who supports the channel using those two methods. It's greatly appreciated, as I always say. Thank you all very much indeed. If you'd like to follow the channel on social media, you can. Facebook, Instagram and Twitter are all linked down below. And if you'd like to get in touch but you don't really use social media, there is of course an email address in the description as well. That's everything for this video, so until next time, bye for now.